There we go. I'm live on YouTube. Oh, gosh, that's frustrating. Newfoundland, 2 teenagers. They're my favorite age. So you've got 2 different people in Newfoundland. Never been further than Thunder Bay in Canada. Okay, let's get going because it took me a while to get on YouTube. It kept crashing. So I do my live on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. Anyway, so my name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work. Because if you're not accountable, how are your kids going to be accountable? Because they're watching you. I read something recently, and I just mentioned it yesterday in a live, and it was this big scientist or something, and he's talking about how we form in the first 7 years. The basis of who we are forms in the first 7 years. But he said we don't learn through words, we learn through watching. So we learn through observation. So it's kind of backs up what I say. A lot of this is body language, not those mini therapy sessions. They're watching you, how you act. If you're accountable, they will be, that kind of stuff. So you're modeling what you want. A lot of parents just sort of tell their kids what to do, but they're not listening to you. They're watching you. So anyway, teach them how to learn. Sorry, I'm just writing all these notes. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. It is Monday night here. This is our long weekend, our Thanksgiving weekend. We had our Thanksgiving dinner on Saturday night. And I had alcohol. I had 2 drinks. I'm no good at drinking. It takes me 2 days to get over alcohol. I'm just lousy at it. 2 drinks. I don't feel sick or anything. I just don't. I don't feel well. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. Disrespectful 14-year-old. Yeah, they're going to have some of that. Attitude is something that you kind of have to expect with a teenager, and that you've got to let some stuff go. You pick your battles with teenagers. You don't sweat the small stuff, and you never sweat attitude. You can, till you're blue in the face, you can try and deal with their attitude. You can't fix it. Like, you can't change it. But what you can do is work on getting a mutually respectful relationship going, and that attitude very rarely is negative. So it's all about bonding with your teenager, but you got to give them space too. It's a whole thing. I don't have a course on teenagers. I don't know how I would do that. I think one day I'll figure it out. But anyway, teenagers are usually always coaching. But yeah, you got to work on your relationship with them, and I'll tell you how you get stuff done with teenagers. Let's say they've got a dirty room or whatever, although I did let my kids have a messy room. That was one thing I let go. I just made that choice. And I'm fussy. Anyway, so let's say you want them to put their dirty clothes in the hamper. I had a rule, no food and no dirty clothes in their room. They had to go out in the hampers and they had to be separated, whites and darks. And that was like, and then no food. So there was no, I said, because I don't want any critters forming nests in your room. So, but let's say you want them to put their dirty clothes in the hamper. This is what I would say to a 14-year-old if you want that to be done. I would say, listen, from now on, I want your dirty clothes to go in the hamper. What do you want from me? So you negotiate everything with teenagers. Show them some respect. Use my behavior board. And when the teenagers, it's free above. With teenagers, I call it an accountability chart. And you ask them what you want. They'll usually say, get off my back and stop nagging. Something like that. But say, well, I don't know if I can go cold turkey with all that. So how about no yelling or something like that? So anyway, got to work on your bond with all kids, but especially with teenagers. That's kind of all you get. With little ones, you can discipline to get respect, but with teenagers, you've got to disrespect before you even think about disciplining them. It's a whole thing. Okay. I started to write something out, and I'm like, what on earth was I writing? Anyway, I'm just going to read my top 5 tips for parenting teenagers. Top 3 tips, sorry. That's toddlers or 5. Number 1 is listen to understand and show empathy. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. If a teenager wants your advice, they will ask for it. And even then, I don't tell kids what to do. Even then, I would say, well, I don't know, here's what I did, or here's what I might do, but what do you think? You want them to problem solve on their own. So you want to raise strong individuals, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is negotiate pretty much everything with teenagers. Because like I said, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper. What do you want from me? Negotiate. I want you home by 12 o'clock tonight. You want to come home at 1? Let's make it 12:30. Stuff like that. And then there's consequences if they don't follow through. So, but that's another thing. And then the last one is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff. If you sweat all the small stuff, you've got no clout left for the big stuff. Yeah, you got to let attitude go, though. You can't address attitude, not with any age. 21-month-old getting jealous when you're holding your newborn. Yeah, it's just a stage. They'll get used to it. Just protect that newborn because a lot of toddlers will actually throw them on the floor if they get their hands on them. So yeah, it's just a stage. They'll get used to it. Imagine trying to adjust. Imagine if your husband brought home another wife and said, "Here you go. You got another wife to deal with." It's a big ask of a toddler. Can you please share your parents? Like, come on, that's a big ask. So yeah, it just takes time. Okay. What skills, tools should a child have before you can introduce them being home alone? Plus age to start. I would say, to be honest, 12, around there to 13, depending on their maturity level. It's not that they're not, it's not that they're not mature enough to not get into trouble at like 9, 10 years old, but they just get older where they could actually handle something that went wrong. That's the problem. It's could they actually handle a crisis? If some stranger started pounding on the door or something, a 9-year-old would freak out and not know what to do, whereas a 12-year-old hopefully would be better equipped to deal with that. So I would go through all the stuff that might possibly happen. I think my kids were 12 when I started leaving. I'm a little bit more cautious with stuff like that. Yeah, about 12. But yeah, go through all the scenarios that might happen. Information is power. It might even scare them a little bit, but what's wrong with that? I'd rather scare my kids to keep them safe than not, heaven forbid, I should talk about the stuff that goes on out there in the world. I told my kids everything. They were so used to hearing about stuff that they didn't think anything of it. But they had skills because they understood. I'd say, look, if this ever happens, if anyone ever shows you his what's it, when you're out in public or something, here's what you do. You go to an older woman like me and you go tell her and she'll call the police. So that didn't scare them. They just kind of knew what to do. If anything had happened, they would have known what to do. Information is power. 18-month-old twins started, yeah, toddlers are going to hit. They're hitting other people. I actually have a whole course on that, toddlers who hit and bite. You might be interested in checking that out. That's in the link above. But yeah, you just say no and just say sorry, but they're on the warpath right now. And then just say no, and it's consistent corrective actions. They're not going to learn the first time. It's going to take them a while. So yeah, toddlers are crazy. Don't try and figure them out. Which brings me to my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I will read them out. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. You can just relax. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with your toddler, enter their world. You don't bring a toddler to the nail salon to connect with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 3 is stop with the mini therapy sessions. Toddlers learn through actions, not words. They learn through consequences, but in the moment consequences with toddlers. You don't use the behavior board till they turn 3. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They don't make any sense. They're just toddlers. They're crazy. It's not even so much that they're crazy. They just haven't developed sanity yet. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. What do you mean you don't address attitude? My 7-year-old is rude and sassy. You work on yourself. That bad attitude towards, I rarely ever got disrespected by any kid. I've worked with hundreds of kids, troubled teens, because I was a leader and I commanded respect by being a leader. I was fun. I made them feel good about themselves. Attitude just doesn't happen. They're reacting to your lack of leadership. That's all it is. So think about it that way. Their bad attitude, their sassiness is your lack of leadership. You're not fixing them. You're fixing yourself and teaching yourself. That's what it's all about. So I worked with hundreds of kids. Was it all those kids or was it me? You see, you set yourself up as a leader and they just respect you. The attitude disappears. It's their way of begging for you to be a leader. All children need, crave, and want a leader. If you're not a leader, they'll act out in all sorts of weird ways to get you to be a leader. They don't understand that, but that's what they're doing. Like whenever I come up against a really difficult kid, I don't work with kids anymore, but I used to. And whenever they'd hand me a really difficult one, it was always like this. Good luck with this one, Lisa. They'd hand me a really difficult kid. And I always thought, well, that's going to be the quickest one to get respect with. You know why? The feistier the kid, when they come up against a calm leader, they almost go like this. Oh, thank God, finally. They are begging for it. So work on yourself. Work on yourself. Parents are very quick to blame their kids, but it's not the kids. It's yourself. It's you. You work on your leadership skills. Makes sense, doesn't it? They're just reacting to you. So it's all about you. It begins and ends and everything. It's all you. So your children's behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. That's all it is. Work on leadership. Be a leader. Use my behavior board. Buy one of my courses. My big one is the Bratbusters Boot Camp. Teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. Or you can hire me for coaching. It's all about leadership. How you talk to kids, your body language, how you do it. It's just calm leadership. I was a crazy mother. I was that crazy one, at the park, rolling down the hill with the kids. But I was very much a leader. So it's not a serious role. It's actually the opposite. The more fun you have with the kids, the more of a friend you are, the more you bond with them, the better the leadership is. So it's about bonding with them, being close, and they'll tell you everything. You're going to be a safe place to land. You're going to make them feel safe. They're going to have more confidence, higher self-esteem, and they're going to treat you beautifully. I remember someone asked me once when I wasn't a parenting coach at the time, they said, what do you, because they said your kids are so polite, what do you do when they're rude to you? And I said, well, they never have been. Like, why would they? I was a leader. Why would they'd be embarrassed. It's when they look up to someone that treats them really well, and you deal with bad behavior, but it's quick, it's over and done with, and then you focus on the good kid. You meet their needs and manage their wants. Their wants are the discipline. You got to manage their wants, but you meet their needs, and part of their needs is connecting with you. Being a calm leader, not yelling, being calm when you're disciplining. My son used to say, if my mom ever whispers, run. That's what I'm disciplining. I'd say, didn't like that. Tell you what we're going to do. You're going to help me mop the floor later or something. Do you understand? It was like that. Very, very, very calm. No anger, none. Kids pick up on this. Anyway, it's you got to work for this though. You got to earn it. You got to work for their respect. It's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. You got to work for it. And a lot of parents will hire me and then they'll say, but I'm so nice to them. And so you mean you're a dish rag? They wipe their feet all over you? They don't need that. They need a leader. They need someone to guide them into making good choices. Did you ever allow your kids to sleep in your bed? If they were sick, I usually slept in their bed for a while anyway, or in their room. They didn't want to, like they just never saw that as an option. But my daughter slept in our bed with us for the first, I think it was 8 or 10 months. She slept with us. She just wanted to be held right here. Her face was, she wanted to be breathing in your neck. It was the weirdest thing. So I hated it. You never really get a good night's sleep when you got a kid like breathing. And she was a loud sleeper too, but it's what she wanted. She never cried or anything. The easiest kid in the world, but she loved that. And I cater to babies really. Like they cry, they want something, I give it to them. So anyway, but no, they just never thought it was never an option. But when they were sick, I definitely crawled into bed with them a lot. Or when they were upset about, I crawled into their bed. And of course, they came running into our room in the morning. So you're welcome. How do I go about being a strict parent to a 15-year-old to not being so strict? That's a tricky one. 15, is it a boy? It's interesting because when I'm hired, I specialize in teenagers, and when I'm hired to work with teenage girls, the average age is 12 to 16. With boys, it's just turned 15. That's the average age I get hired to work with parents who have teenage boys. Just turned 15. It's really weird. I get it. I know why. They're at that moment in life. Anyway, go from strict to not being so strict. So I'm going to read out something, and then I'm going to answer your question better. I'm going to go through the 4 stages of parenting. Where do I have that? 4 stages of parenting. Sorry, I wrote it out here. The first one, and it's not about the kids, it's about you. Their age depicts how you should parent. So between the ages of 0 to 15 months, you should be nothing but nurturing, and if they cry, pick them up, that kind of stuff. So you're just nurturing. It's all about love and connecting and playing with them. Then when they're toddlers at 16 to 35 months, this is when you're getting more into showing them right from wrong. And it's about consistent corrective actions. It's not about words. It's all about actions with them. So you're still all loving. You're always loving and nurturing. But at that age, you're really kind of trying to teach them more right from wrong. So you're changing your parenting style. Now, the next parenting style is from 3 to 12 years old. That's when you are heavily into the leadership role. They're going to come to you with everything. You're going to be the leader. They're going to want to please you. And then when they're 13 and over, you back off a bit. You want them to be more their own leaders. So you're talking about being less strict. What you do is you start giving them more options, give them more control over their life. I would even, if you were too strict, I would say something like this. And this is what a lot of parents of teenagers, they don't like the first session when they hire me. It's almost always 5 sessions if you want to hire me with teenagers. They don't like that first session because I usually say, if you've been too strict and you've got, let's say they've taken the phone away for a whole month and that kid hasn't had it, I would say to them, that's that's very unfair. It looks like you've lost control. I would say, look, I realize I've been too strict. I want to apologize for that. Here's your phone back. Plus, I want to buy you something extra. I want to apologize for being too strict. I realize I should be a better parent. Do not turn it around and say, but you should be a better kid. It's all about give, 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 give. And parents argue that. And I say, no, you don't say anything. Don't expect anything from them. Say, I want to be a better parent. I just want to apologize. I realize I've been too strict. You're a teenager now. You're going to be an adult soon. I got to learn to back off a bit, don't I? Like that kind of really humble, really vulnerable and apologizing. So I'd really like to do something for you. Do you want to go to a movie or something, or go do something fun together? Usually something fun together. Do you want to go do paintball? Something they love and you hate is always the best thing. And they don't mind being seen in public with you. So yeah, it might be like go-karting in another suburb or something. So yeah, make amends, apologize. It drops their defenses. Parents say they often go like this. What? It's starting to shift things. So yeah, that's how you do it. You apologize, make amends, and then back off a little bit. Teenagers are my favorite age. When you know how to talk to them and listen, to understand and show respect. Once they respect you, they're my favorite age. You got to work for that. Got to earn it. Like parents say, well, they should respect me. I'm their parents. That's the old-fashioned way. Yeah, it doesn't work that way anymore. Popping in to say hi. Hi, Roxy. Yeah, how do I handle hitting with a 2-year-old? Okay, I have a mini course on that. It's a toddler course. It's up in the link above if you're interested. But it's just consistent corrective actions. They're not going to learn the first time. They're going to learn maybe the 50th or the 100th time. So every time they hit, you say no, and you take a toy away, remove them for the fun for a minute, or you just say no, and you might just even hold them for 30 seconds or something, just so they can't play or hit again. And then watch them like a hawk, intervene before they hit. I'm going to read something. 4 annoying traits that kids are born with. Now, they're either born to do this or they're not. They're either going to do it or they're never going to do it. It's something that they're just born to do. One of them is aggressiveness. It's hitting, biting, all that kind of stuff. They're either going to do it or they're not. Another one is obviously tantrums. Another one is running. When they don't look behind to see where you are, they just take off in a busy mall and you don't see them again. One of those runners. So I suggest you put them on a leash or a lead or a harness. And then the last one is climbing. That's the one where they just tend to climb up walls and everything. They're really good at it. They're like little monkeys. That one scares me the most because they can, like I always tell the story about a client who had an 18-month-old on top of a fridge. She'd been looking for her for ages, almost called the police. She heard giggling and she looked up and her 18-month-old was on top of the fridge. Had used her little toes to get up the drawers, then onto the counter, bread machine, then up on the fridge. And imagine if she'd fallen off head first. So climbing's day. Put a bell on the kid or put a bell on anything that they used to climb with. Just have some kind of an alarm. But yeah, they're either going to do those things. A lot of parents say, my kids have all 4. My kids, the only one that they had was my son had tantrums. And they didn't last long. I think he had his last one at 3.5. He didn't have a lot of them, but he had them. And I remember I never had tantrums, and my daughter never did either. And I remember she used to look at kids having a tantrum the same way I remember it. I remember when a kid was having a tantrum, I remember thinking, how embarrassing. Why would you do that? Like, I can remember that, like, really clearly. I was probably 2 or 3. And I can remember thinking, geez, what are you doing? I just thought it was crazy. And my daughter would look at kids the same way, like, what are you doing? It's hard to understand if you don't have that in you. Whereas my son would just go for a tantrum. No thought, just go for it. Yeah, they're either born that way or they're not. Okay. Someone had fat fingers. What is that about typing? There are more typos on TikTok than I've ever seen anywhere else because it's so fast, and I do it too. It's just so fast. Apologizing is a good skill to show our kids. It's something that you want to teach your kids. And with teenagers, we almost always start with an apology, and parents don't like it, but yeah, because you're just trying to drop their defenses. I want to tell you a story, but I don't want to scare you because I do specialize in teenagers. I got a lot of teenage stories. Yeah, I don't want to tell you that because I don't want to scare you. But anyway, it was about apologizing and the power of it. Anyway, I'm going to tell you how to apologize effectively. Most people don't know how to do it. Apologizing is 4 steps. And apologize. The first step is say, I'm sorry, which I really don't care about. It's an empty word that's overused. I'm sorry. And then you're still upset about something. And they say, I said I was sorry, like as if it just, one word erases everything they've just done. I remember years ago, this guy just almost ran over me. He did something really stupid. He backed up his car really quickly and just backed up almost into me and my little dog. And I was just really upset. I don't usually have a temper, but I just said to him, I said, you almost killed me and my little dog. I said, that was really, and he says, sorry about that. And I said, you got to watch yourself. He said, I said I was sorry. And I said, I'm allowed to be upset. I'm allowed to vent after you just almost hit me. And he actually went like this. He went, you're right. He said, you're right. Say whatever you want. It was amazing. Like the way I worded it, I guess was nice. Like I wasn't mad. Well, I was upset, right? It scared the heck out of me. Anyway. So, but he took it. He took his punishment. I just said, when you reverse that quickly, I never even saw your reverse lights. He just changed his mind. He left the alley, then he decided to come back into it backwards. Anyway, so, but that's a really good example of how the word sorry is overused. I said I was sorry. Oh, okay, I'm okay then. Anyway, 4 steps to apologizing. Say you're sorry. That's why I don't really like that word, but it's overused. The second step is take full accountability. Don't say, I'm sorry, but if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had to have yelled or hit you. You see, it's like, well, okay, so it's my fault now. So take full accountability. That's step number 2. The third one is really important. Make amends. Say, what can I do to make it up to you? I feel really bad about that. Hey, look, I was late. How about I buy your first drink? How about I buy dessert for you? What can I do to make it up to you? Make amends. Show that's how you show you're sorry. Don't just say sorry and then just, you're not very forgiving if the person's still kind of mad. Like, it's just overused. So and then the last one, step number 4 is don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Then your apology meant nothing. So yeah, 4 steps to teach that to your kids. I'm really good at apologizing. And my son, he's the one who always, it's very funny. He used to say, well, that's because you've had so much practice. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I'm very good at it. I taught my kids and my kids are very good at it too. So it's a skill that you can teach your children, but you got to do it first. And then don't say to them, now, are you going to apologize to me? With teenagers, parents always want that back and forth stuff. And I say it's a one-way street with teenagers. And eventually it'll be a 2-way street, but not right now. Not when you're working how to set yourself up and get respect with them. It's a one-way street. It's give, 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 give. Get, give, 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 give. Get. And then parents will say, well, that's not fair, is it? I say, welcome to parenting, teenagers. Welcome to parenting. It's not fair. It's more give than take with kids, right? That's the way you go into it. What's your least favorite age? By far, toddlers, by far. Not when I've got them at home in a safe environment, but taking them out, like traveling with, oh God, I remember traveling with my son at 18 months. We went from Australia to where we lived in Australia to Canada. It was a 24-hour trip with an 18-month-old. That was hell. He never slept the whole time. He was a good little boy, but he never slept the whole time. 24 hours, 18-month-old who never slept once in 24 hours. Yeah. My least favorite age by far. It's so physical. I've got a really bad back too, so it was really physical. Anyway, by far my least favorite age. But not at home. I thought they were cute as a button and adorable at home because I childproofed my whole house. It's a piece of cake. I loved it. I loved having toddlers at my house. Not at anyone else's house or not when I was traveling. Oh, do you recommend preschool for children or waiting to start school until kindergarten? I like preschool. The sooner you can get them socializing and out there away from you, learning how to separate from you and have their own little world, I think the better. My kids, I waited till they were up on their feet really confidently before I did this. But I used to work out. I still work out every day. But anyway, I used to work out a lot. And it was really hard with kids. I went on really long walks with the kids. It was more with them in the pram and stroller. Sorry, in Australia, they're called prams. Anyway, it was usually me walking up and down hills every day with them in the pram. But then as soon as they were up on their feet, I took them to the gym and they went in the gym daycare. And that was their social world. Every single morning, Monday through Friday, they went in gym daycare. And my son loved it. He used to cry on the weekends when I went to the gym without him. As soon as I got my aerobics stuff on, he'd start to cry when I wouldn't take him with me. He loved this. My daughter, not so much. She was a mummy's girl. She just wanted to be attached to me. She wanted to be Velcroed to me all the time. But yeah, so that's why it was even more important to put her in there. And but yeah, they learned social skills in that environment. It's a safe environment. So yeah, I think it's nice. And it was funny, us moms used to laugh because we'd all be up doing, I used to teach aerobics too. So we'd all be up doing aerobics. And then we said it was the longest walk back to daycare. We would stretch that out for like 45 minutes. It's like 1 hour aerobics. And then 45 minutes later, we'd pick the kids up. And the daycare ladies were always laughing at us. They said, gee, that was a long walk. Yep. That was our social time too. It's funny. Diaper changes with wiggly toddler. All kids are going to twist and turn. They're like alligators and crocodiles. They just start twisting around. They did it more with their father than me. He was the pleaser. I was the leader. There usually is one strong leader and a pleaser in the family. Usually the way it goes. So long as the pleaser backs up the leader, it works beautifully. So, but they knew that dad was more likely to let them sit up and just take a break. When I was changing their nappy, there was no way. It was like my elbow went across them. And I was like, I sort of changed them like that. Like their head was up there, my elbow was down there, and it was done like in a shot. And they didn't tend to fight me as much because they knew that there was no point, right? So yeah, that's just a stage. It's an annoying stage. It's just a stage though. Haley says it's almost constant. I'm looking back. What is? I can only go back so far before I start to get vertigo. I get dizzy really bad when I go backwards for some reason. Okay. So, what happens if teenagers yell back, cry, scream, and slam doors for every little disagreement? You just got to work on that respect. You got to work on connecting with them. You can't deal with that unless your relationship is stronger. When you've got a strong relationship with your teenager, that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. You got to know when to walk away. And you don't say it like this. Let's say they're upset, they're heightened over something, and you're talking about something. You don't say, we'll discuss it later when you've calmed down. Talk about an accelerator. Like that's what you're thinking. But this is what you do. You say, I'll tell you what, can we discuss this after dinner? And then just go off and, do whatever. So yeah, you got to work on your relationship with them because that's just a byproduct of your relationship with them. If they're yelling and screaming at every little thing, they don't tend to feel heard. They don't tend to feel like they have any power. So you got to work on that. You got to negotiate that stuff. And that's what teenagers are all about. So you negotiate pretty much everything with teenagers. And you got to give a bit. You got, like my son was 15 and he says, I have nothing to rebel against because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to. Like that's why they never were back talking or anything. And he wanted to rebel. He says, it's frustrating. I've got nothing to rebel against like a normal teenager would. And I said, fine, go clean your room. And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. So boy, did he ever not clean his room. Okay. Our kids 7 to 11 tattle telling. Okay. I used to say to kids, unless there is blood spurting out of an artery or bone sticking out of the skin, I don't want to hear about it. Now, if it gets out of hand and you know that they're just tattling to get the other kid in trouble, I would start punishing the tattler and say, the next time you tattle, there'll be a consequence. So they'll just have to empty the dishwasher or make that kid's bed. They have to do one of that kid's chores, whoever they tattled on. But it depends. If the kid is like cutting up something or doing some real damage, that's different, right? But normally it isn't. So you have to decide. That's something in coaching. We have to decide what we're going to do that with and what we're not. And oftentimes you got to be careful too. If you've got kids fighting and parents they'll often say to me, they'll say, well, explain, what do you mean by that? By sibling rivalry, explain it to me. And they'll say, well, the older one's always hitting the little one. And then I'll say, well, tell me a situation. Well, this and that. And I said, that's not what's happening. I said, you watch it the next time. I'll guarantee you that little one is doing something like this, egging them on. I can just tell. So you got to be really careful. You got to see what's going on. You got to watch the dynamics. So are the other ones trying to get in trouble so the other one will tattle, or are they actually being mean to that little one? And that's why they're tattling. It's a bit complicated sometimes. You got to be a bit of a sleuth. Can you do a video with angry outbursts? Yeah, well, I was talking about angry outbursts the other day. Did I do a video on that? Angry outbursts, which are far worse than tantrums, versus tantrums. Tantrums are a total loss of control. Angry outbursts are more controlled. They're vindictive often. They're meant to hurt physically or emotionally. Um, yeah, there's just a lot more evil behind them, right? Tantrums are just a loss. I didn't get what I wanted. I'm going to scream and kick and see if that'll work. But an angry outburst is a little bit different. It's more controlled. And so, yeah, I don't know the age. So it's very difficult they don't start angry outbursts until they're older usually. But yeah, you got to work on your relationship. And then whatever it's very specific. I always get befuddled when I've got too many answers. It's very specific. Let's say that you've got, I'll set up an example. Let's say you've got a 7-year-old and they're just mad about something. So they take something and just tear it up, something you like. Let's say it's your journal or something, and they take it and they just rip it right in front of you. That would be an angry outburst, okay? You never say anything in the moment. You just say, fine, okay, and then let them walk away, let them cool down. Then I would say something like this, but you gotta assess your parenting too. Are you meeting their needs? Are you a leader? But you can sort of start your leadership with something like this. I would say, look, I don't know why you tore up my journal, but that's not the point. The point is that you did. So there's going to be a consequence for that. And the consequence is this: I'm going to take money out of your allowance. You're going to pay for another journal. And also, I want you to make my bed for the next 2 days or something like that. If they won't do that, then it's media blackout for 24 hours. Use my behavior board to do that. But yeah, you don't go into the reason behind it. You just deal with it. You don't do the therapy sessions. In coaching, I always say, let me figure that out. But just start with the consequence and very calm and say, here's the consequence. This is what I want you to do. If you don't, it'll be 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? And then that's the end of it. No anger. Then you might say something like, do you want to go play a game? And then you connect with them. See how that goes. Is it going to work right away? That one is, a lot of coaching goes around with that one. Depends on the situation, but you get the idea behind that. You're not getting behind the reason behind it. The reason is that you're going to deal with it the same way anyway. And often, I usually know the reason behind it in coaching, but there's no point going into all that. It's when I get child psychologists as clients, they want to know the reason behind it. And I always say the same thing. You're kind of wasting your money. If after the 3rd or 5th session, you still want to know the reason behind it, then we can discuss it. They don't usually. They get it by that time. It's just my methods are just different from anything they've usually learned. But anyway, so yeah, don't worry about the reason behind it. Just deal with it in a very calm manner. But yeah, angry outbursts are. The reason why they're scary is when they're like 15, 16 and they're bigger. They take the car keys and key the side of the car and stuff like that. That's what they'll do. That's what it turns into. Or they'll take the remote and throw it at the TV and smash it. Stuff like that. That's what it turns into. One of them, oh geez, that was awful. One of them took a slow cooker and turned it upside down in the kitchen with all the food in it, hot, steamy food in it. That's an angry outburst, stuff like that. You want to address that. But you have to be really calm when you do. So, yeah, you did that. Here's the consequence. Do you understand? And then say, do you want to play a game? Then you go right into connecting. Try and bond with them. If you stay angry with a kid, you're not a leader. Leaders bring out the best in people, not the worst. If you stay angry at that kid, they will hate you. They'll love you, but they'll hate you. It's an ugly scene at that point. So you deal with the consequence, the discipline, and then you say, do you want to go to the park? They might say, no, I hate you, leave me alone. Say, okay, fine. When they calm down, ready to go to the park now? So you're always trying to bond with them. Always trying to get that close relationship going with them. Okay. Oh, you're a teacher asking me about classrooms? No, I don't teach that. No, I don't teach teaching. Huge portion of my clients are teachers and principals and that, but I can't do their job. And they're struggling with parenting, but it's so different from teaching. Like I don't teach teaching at all. I wouldn't have a clue. I'd probably get up in front of a class and wet myself. Yeah, it's not my lane. I'm home-based parent-child bonding and I'm leadership stuff. So yeah, I can't help you with that. Yeah. I have some ideas, but it's not my specialty, so I don't talk about it. What do you specialize in? Are you a pediatrician? You're very knowledgeable in children. Yeah, I have no training. I it's just I learned through kids. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. Like, who does that? That's really weird. And they used to ask me, the ladies used to ask me how I got respect because they said, "You're so goofy." Because I still, as a mother, I was very goofy. And they said, "You're so goofy and fun, and yet the kids just look up, they respect you." And I didn't know how to answer that. I was a leader. I just always was kind of good at that. And yeah. Yeah, I had no training. I haven't told this story in quite some time. I thought I was going to be a child psychologist because I just thought that would suit me. Anyway, within a week of taking this prerequisite course, they kicked me out because I was asking too many questions. And they were good questions because what they were teaching was garbage. I'm sure that was 40 years ago. I'm sure it's better now, but it was just garbage. This holier than thou patronizing stuff with kids, I hated it. So, and because I treat kids with respect, and it wasn't that, it was more this authority, my way or the highway stuff. And anyway, the other students started asking me questions about kids too. So yeah, they couldn't get rid of me fast enough. I should have held out. I probably could have got double my money back just to get rid of me. But anyway, they gave me my money back. And then I thought, thank God I never did that. I could never be under that umbrella where I had to, follow what they were teaching. It was just kids taught me everything. I specialize in teen crisis work. That's how I started my business, like the life and death, horrible stuff. So that's how I started my business. Was now I don't lead with that, but in coaching, I still do that. And yes, I do offer coaching services. It's all in the link above. Everything I have to offer is in the link above. The free behavior board, the courses, and the coaching. That's different levels of help. But yeah, teenagers are my favorite age. I had no idea I could do that. I was mentoring troubled teens and I had some training, but I didn't use any of it. I knew I was going to have my own style with them. And they're the ones who said, "Lisa, you got to teach what you do." They told me to do this. So that was about 20 years ago. Can my 3-year-old be having an angry outburst? Yeah, they can do snotty things in anger, but a tantrum is a whole momentum thing. It's a total loss where they can't even get themselves out of it for a while. It's just like their eyes are spinning, and it's just kind of crazy. But don't worry about it. Like you ignore both when they're happening anyway. So the way you act with them is the same when they're happening. But although you can intervene if they're doing something physical, but afterwards you never discipline a tantrum. But you can discipline what they did during a tantrum past the age of about 3. But under that, they're not in control of what they're doing. But as they get older, if they broke something during a tantrum, when it's all over, you can say, don't discuss the tantrum though. You never discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. Ever, never, never. You don't discuss anger either. I just used to say to my son who had tantrums, I said, "Look, I understand you get upset. Nothing wrong with that. But go scream into a pillow. Don't drag us into it." And he just sort of stopped having them because they didn't work. But yeah, you never discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. There's no point. If I thought there was a point, I would do it. I've never, ever seen a point in doing that. It's never effective in any way. It makes you feel good, though. All these mini therapy sessions discussing big feelings, big emotions, you can do that when everything's great, but not during a tantrum. And you don't discuss all the feelings that went into it. Why bother? You're giving it so much more energy and attention than it needs. I ignore all that stuff. So yeah, I know it's trendy to do all that. That's the please your parents style. But yeah, though that style generally tends to, you become a doormat and a dish rag and your kids never respect you. And they grow up self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. There's no strength in any of that. It's just all, it's just, it's awful. It's like timeout. Timeout's like that. It's horrible. I hate timeout. Leadership is, you know what you're doing. You deal with everything in the moment. Like you deal with everything. You don't send them in a corner to think about what they did. It's horrible. It's mean. Oh, I don't have kids, but I love listening to you, and it helps with my nephew. Yeah, I practiced on a whole bunch of other kids before I had my own. It helped. So if you ever do have your own kids, it'll help. 21-month-old, yeah, they're gonna get physical when they have tantrums. They throw themselves on the floor, bang their heads. I do have a course on tantrums if you're interested. That's I think that no, the potty training one's my biggest, the one that most popular. But the tantrum one is probably my favorite. Anyway, no, the potty party one is. It was funny. I had the other night we were all together, my kids and I, and that. And the kids said, and my daughter said, "I was looking through your potty party course the other day." She said, I didn't realize it was actually a party. And I said, "Oh yeah, it's a party. Party hats, streamers, everything. It's a party." and just you and your kids. And she had no memory of that. And I said, well, you were 2. Like, she wouldn't remember that. But anyways, they're going to throw themselves on the ground when they're having a tantrum. Just restrain them physically so they don't get hurt. That's all. You still don't look at them or talk to them. There's no point talking to them about that when they're 21 months old. They're in one ear and out the other. When you're giving them a mini therapy session when they're toddlers, and because I know it's trendy, it's just invented for them to feed the mom's needs, has nothing to do with the toddler. Anyway, so when you're talking to them, I see this when I'm out and about sometimes, and I'm like, oh, here we go. So they're talking, and you shouldn't have done that. And the kids go, no, I know, mommy. They're going to go right back and do it again. They've learned nothing. Nothing. They're about consistent corrective actions, but you never discipline a tantrum. You just restrain them physically, keep them alive. I've had some clients that I've recommended putting foam helmets on their kids. They will associate banging their head on the coffee table with having to have that foam helmet, and they stop doing it because they don't want to wear that helmet. Got to keep them alive, right? No, I don't. 15-month-old. Do you treat tantrums the same with a 15-month-old? No, I don't. They're still babies, but they're right on the cusp. A 16-month-old, that's when they're toddlers. 15 and under, I consider a baby. That's just in my own terms, I've decided. So, but what you do is you can divert. If they're having a tantrum, you still ignore it. But this is what I would do. I would take their favorite book, like their favorite book that they love you to read to them, and I would just sit near them and read it out loud to myself like this. Oh, and the fox jumped over it. Oh, and then he went like that. The whole idea is that they might just crawl into your lap and forget about the tantrum. Or they might come over and start hitting you. I would physically restrain them, like hold them hands, and still I'd probably just move over and then I'd read again. So you're just calmly reading a book and they might come over and crawl into your lap. It's a form of diversion, which I don't like when they're acting out, but a tantrum is not bad behavior anyway. And I don't divert when they're older. You do not do that when they're older because you want them to learn how to, you don't want to be it's kind of pulling out the life preserver for them. You don't do that when they're 16 months and older. You want their brain to learn how to process their tantrum on their own. The sooner they learn that, the quicker that the tantrums are going to start to decrease in duration, frequency, and intensity, because it's a process in their own brain. If you interrupt that process, you are slowing it down. So allow them to learn how to have a tantrum, go into it, have it, and get out of it all by themselves. No, 15-year-old. Sorry, I got that wrong. Do you deal with a tantrum with a 15-year-old? Oh, sorry, wrong. Well, still good information. Do you treat a tantrum to a 15-year-old the same as you would a kid? Well, another brand new answer. No. Yes. Yes, you do. The difference is that with a kid, when they get older and bigger and harder to manage physically, even if you could overpower them, by the age of about 8, you stop physically restraining them when they're having a tantrum. Like let's say they're starting to throw things. Teenagers, you might have a few holes in the wall, but you do not intervene physically with a teenager. You just let them physically, I won't go into it, but there's a lot of reasons why you don't do that. So you still ignore it. I would just probably walk away, but they shouldn't be having tantrums when they're teenagers. So I would work on the relationship. Why are they having tantrums? What would it be over? Would it be over you disciplined them, you took their phone away? Something like that. Like, why are they having a tantrum at 15? That they should. Let me rephrase that. A lot of them do, but when you're a calm leader, they don't tend to have them. They stop having tantrums at about 3, 3.5, 4. So if they're still having them, yeah. I would want to assess that. Teenagers, that's why I don't have a course yet on teenagers, because it's such a big, I need to know what's going on in your home. I need to know what kind of parent you are, how you talk to them, and then we can work that out. Okay, I'm just going to read a question here that I got on YouTube. Hi, we're moving in 2 weeks. I have a 4 and 2-year-old. Any tips on moving to help them adjust? Just make sure, I would actually get them, like if they have a stuffy or anything that they like, I would actually get them new ones and put them on their bed, because keeping them in a different bed in the bedroom is probably going to be your biggest challenge. So yeah, I would get them something very soothing, or the Galaxy light, something to make their bedroom more special, their new bedroom. Yeah, that's what I would do. But it's going to, usually they think it's all fun. They're not having to do any of the work, right? What to do during the tantrum? Nothing. I'm going to show you what I do. Okay. Which story should I tell? I'll tell the mall story. I get so many stories that just explain it perfectly. My son was 3 years old, and it was his second to last tantrum. He didn't have a lot of them, but he had them. He was good at it. And anyway, he was in the mall, and we were just walking back to our car. Like, we're going to go out to the parking lot. And we were still inside the mall. It was very loud, crowded, and busy, so it wasn't disturbing people. I wouldn't do this in a church or a restaurant. I would take him out to the parking lot and do this. But anyway, he was 3 years old. We're just walking, like, we weren't even talking. Nothing was happening. He just started having a tantrum. So I just pulled him over by the store window, because there was stairs right there, and I got out my nail file, and this is me. He's having a tantrum right there. This is me filing my nails. I'm just waiting. It's important you don't talk on your phone or anything like that. You want them to see you looking like you're just waiting. It's important that they see you calm and controlled. You're just waiting, and I'm filing my nails. He already knew the drill, right? So filing my nails. The funny part is that young moms were coming up to me going, oh, you should give him a hug, talk about his feelings. I'm like, oh God. Anyway, I'm like, keep going. They didn't know what they were, they're just new. They're young moms. They don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, but then these grandmothers and moms with older kids kept coming up to me saying, you know what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Anyway, it didn't last very long. He finally gets up, and I said to him, and he's finished. And I said, oh, y'all done? Okay, let's get going. And we just walked away. He only had one more tantrum after that. That tantrum got him no attention. I didn't feed it with attention or anything, nothing. I wasn't upset. I was just waiting. I'm modeling calm behavior. I'm modeling my leadership. I'm showing him that has no effect on me whatsoever. I know what I'm doing. Comes across. They pick up on this. Yeah, but that's how you handle a tantrum. Now, if he was physically violent, I would restrain him, but I still would not be looking at him or talking to him. You just physically restrain them from hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or damaging property when they're little. When they're teenagers, you do not try and restrain a teenager. Never. Unless they're going to run into traffic or something, life and death, obviously. So yeah. Now, does that make sense? I get the most flack on that. I call it clickbait. Whenever I do a video on that, just everyone comes in to hate me, and it gets me really good views, but I just get tired of talking about it. But yeah, people fight me on that all the time. But yeah, that's what you do. And if you're a regular here, I love all that. I love all the nasty comments, because that means I'm shaking things up. They keep watching. It's the same people who keep attacking me. It's a lot of my competition too. They're on the attack every time I say something like that. And that's great. That means I'm shaking things up. And that's what I'm here for. You want to be a leader for your children. I know the new style now is the please your parent. It's like rolling out the red carpet participation awards. What a bunch of garbage is that? Anyway, you're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. It's awful. Anyway, I'm exaggerating, of course. The old-fashioned authority style parent, where's my way or the highway, I'm in charge. It's not great. It's kind of old-fashioned. It's not great, but it's way better than the please your parent style, because you're raising better individuals, stronger individuals who respect you when they come out of it. Otherwise, if you're a pleaser parent, you tend to be a dish rag. They tend to wipe their feet all over you. They never respect you or themselves or other people. And then they grow up these victims. That grows the victim mentality. Well, you didn't validate my feelings. I'm just the bus driver, lady. I mean, it's just ludicrous, right? How about a 4-year-old that has selective hearing? Well, in coaching, I have a different answer than I have on TikTok. Do you want to hear the coaching one? Coaching ones are always better because I can go into more detail. But generally, I'm going to set up a scenario. So a client comes to me and they say, my 4-year-old has selective hearing. He only hears what he wants to hear. So what I would say was, okay, it's time to get ready for bed. And he just completely ignores me. Do you want some ice cream? Yes, please. I say, so you can hear me. And then I would go on from there. Yeah, I would throw in something you want to pull away from them, because so you can hear me. No, that ice cream was just I was just checking your hearing. It throws it back at them. Anyway, it's a little bit more involved than that, but that's what I would do. Selective hearing. Yeah. Get my behavior board. It's free up there, and it'll teach you how to start getting respect. Because if they're selective hearing, it just means they don't respect you. So remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. You set yourself up as a leader. They will want to please you. They just do. I have zero memory, literally no memory, of ever telling my kids to do their homework or go to bed. I don't think I ever reminded them, but they just knew you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. And they understood there's just self-discipline. There's things you have to do, right? They put their dishes in the dishwasher or in the sink. They just kind of knew that's what you do. They never would have questioned it, but they weren't obedient little soldiers. They had their opinions. Believe me. If they didn't like something I was doing, they told me for sure. They did not hold back. Mom, it's really annoying when you do that. Oh, really? You don't like that? So, yeah, you don't want obedient little soldiers. You want kids who have confidence and they have a voice. You want them to tell you everything. You want to be a safe place to land. They'll tell you everything right through the teen years. Oh, tantrums are different from whining. You asked about are tantrums the same as 8-year-old who frustrated just whines? How do you handle that? I can handle just about anything. I work with troubled teens and everything. Whining, I can't stand whining. It goes in, oh, just like I like nails on a chalkboard, music to my ears compared to whining. I can't stand it. So I would mimic that whine. I would say, you know how you just spoke to me? You just said, I don't like that. You say, that'll never work with me. Okay. So anytime she's 8, by the way, that child's 8. So I would say, anytime you talk to me like that, you will be ignored, just so you know, because it's a very rude way of speaking. It's very annoying. But if you want something, you can say, may I please have, and talk nicely. So you just set it up. She's 8 years old. She can understand that. Say to her, I will not be responding to you when you whine. So, but don't try and stop it. You never try and stop whining. You just tell them what to do instead. Like, it's not so much teaching them what not to do. It's teaching them what to do instead. So she'll learn to talk nicer, hopefully. Are you close with your children now? A lot of people ask that. I don't talk about my adult kids because it's not their choice to be discussed. But yeah, we all get along great. But I just don't discuss them. The only thing I discuss is, well, my daughter lives nearby. We go to the same gym. I see her every day. We both live downtown. My son's expecting his first child. So that's about all I'll say. Tell us about your most difficult client. Yeah, like I'm going to do that. Let me think. What is challenging when I'm hired is, and this is one of the most challenging things that I deal with, which seems kind of weird. It's when I'm hired by someone, a mom who has a newborn and a toddler. The reason is, how far can I push her? How much can I really ask of her? She's got a newborn. She's breastfeeding. She's exhausted. She might have postpartum depression. She's got a toddler who's driving her nuts. How much can I really ask of her? I have to take that into account. A lot of coaching, I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm assessing what you can do. I'm assessing what is suitable to you. That is probably my most challenging thing, which seems kind of crazy because I deal with life and death teen crisis stuff and children who've been abused. And that is, no, I wouldn't say easier. It's sadder, but it's more, I feel more constructive, like I'm making a difference. I don't feel I can make as much of a difference as I would like to, because I know what I want to tell her, but I can't. I have to hold back. So it's interesting, isn't it? You would think that would not be my most difficult. It's not my most difficult client, but it's the one that I find the most frustrating, because I have to be really careful what I tell her, because her mental health and her emotional well-being, she's got a newborn and a toddler that's driving her nuts. Her emotional well-being is my top priority. So, which that's great too, but I'm going to teach parenting here, right? Okay. Should I have my 2-year-old pick up their toys or food that they threw on the floor? No, 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 no. You pick it up and then you hand feed them after that, so they don't get their hands on any food after that for the rest of that meal. If they threw a toy, it gets put on top of the fridge where they can't touch it for the rest of the afternoon or something. So you take action. Like if a kid throws food, I just go, no. I pick it up and then I hand feed them for the rest of that meal. They might not want to eat anything. That's fine by me. I'm taking charge. They learn. It's usually only one meal. It's usually one really difficult meal when that happens. He said, I know how she feels. The mom. Yeah. So you can understand why it's not frustrating for me, and that I love making her feel better about the fact that she's not alone. It's usually that. Am I the only one that I haven't even showered in 2 days? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that. Like, I'm like, yeah, it's very isolating being alone, especially if you don't have a lot of support around, or maybe you've moved to a new city, and you don't have any friends. It's very, very isolating. And so I'm kind of come in and I kind of have to nurture, mother them, right? So, but then I always kind of feel after we're finished, I feel like, geez, there's so much I could have said, but I couldn't have pushed. I can't push her. Like I can't push her into doing too much. So anyway, new moms, my best advice for new moms is make sure mom and baby are happy and healthy. Forget about everything else. Happy in first 3 months, especially mom and baby happy and healthy. That should be your only focus. Thank you for taking the time to help us parents. I love this because I love mothering. It was the most fun I ever had in my whole life. I'm just got this real strong instinct to mother, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm in my 60s now, and I'm mothering. That's how I feel. I feel very protective, like with my clients especially. I'm very protective of them. I feel like, they're going through stuff. And it's not always horrible stuff. Sometimes it's just, hey, my kids drive me nuts. What do I do? So, but I just have a real strong maternal instinct, and this is how I feed it. Because my kids are grown. I haven't got grandkids yet. I will soon, but anyway. How to handle a 5-year-old saying no to things asked of them. Okay, so use the behavior board. And let's say, we'll pick a scenario. Let's say you ask them to put their shoes in the cubby every time they come in. And they say no, and they just throw their shoes. Get that behavior board going. It's free up there in my link. And put shoes in cubby. If they don't do that, they have to clean up everybody's shoes. They have to clean up it's 5-year-old, by the way, not a 3-year-old. So it's okay. They can do this. They have to vacuum the whole entrance or whatever you've got, like mudroom. And if they won't do that, it's 24-hour media blackout. So yeah, just have a consequence. Don't keep asking. If you have to repeat yourself, they don't respect you. I would never have repeated myself. If I said, by the way, shoes in the cubby, if it wasn't done, I would go in and put them in the cubby. And I said, by the way, you didn't put your shoes in the cubby, even though I asked you to do it. So the consequence is I want you to vacuum the kitchen now. Okay? If they said no to me, I never used that kind of stuff with my kids. They just never said no to me. But if I was working with kids and they didn't do something, I would say, okay, so then, here's the consequence. We're not going to play that game we were going to play. So there has to be a consequence. But you're always calm. And this is how you do it too. Like the behavior board is one thing. I never used one. It's a teaching tool. It teaches you how to start becoming, how to deal with discipline. But this is how I talk to kids. If they do something I don't like, this is how I talk to kids without a behavior board. And that is week 4 of my Bratbusters boot camp. You don't use behavior boards after week 4. You can still use the first 3 that you made up, but you don't do any new ones. You do in the moment discipline. And this is how you talk to kids when you do in the moment discipline. Hey, I didn't like the fact that you just threw that toy or threw the remote just on the table and you almost broke it. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. They might have broken it. So we're going to take the money out of your allowance and we're going to pay for that remote. And also, I want you to do something nice for me because you did that. So I want you to help me with the dishes tonight after dinner. Do you understand? And then if they say no, I say, well, that's fine. Then 24-hour media blackout starts now. Fine, I'll do the dishes now. It's too late. 24-hour media blackout just started 10 seconds ago. Do you understand? And then it's really important to let them process that however they're going to do it. They might have a fit. They might have an absolute fit. That's good. Behind every fit, scene, or tantrum, there's a lesson. Then just, whatever. Not fair, I hate you, whatever. I didn't know you were going to do that. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? Like, there's no way I would get pulled into any of that anger or any of that heightened emotion stuff. And then when they have 24-hour media blackout, you do it too. So, because you don't want to be going, oh, this phone is great when they haven't got a phone or anything to look at. So you play games with them. You say, hey, look, we got no media. I'm going to do it with you. We got no media. How about we play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, fine. Never mind. When they calm down an hour later, ready for that game yet? Just keep coming at them, trying to bond with them. Because leadership is not about discipline. I know it's a part of it, but really it's about bonding with your kids, having fun with them. And when you're bonding with kids, you do it in their world, not your world. You don't go to Starbucks to bond with a 5-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Get on the swing with them. You don't go to the park and watch them swing. You swing with them. My kids are driving me nuts. You should take them. Kidding, of course. Yeah, I'm too old for that. It's so hard to be calm with teens. The thing is that it's like anything. Once you know how well it works, it gets easier to do because you're changing yourself, right? You're learning how not to react. And you want them to react to you, not the other way around. With teenagers, it's a little bit more mutual. But yeah, it gets easier. You have to fake it till you make it. Go scream into a pillow. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. You got to work for this. It's worth it though. It's hard work. Becoming a leader, like that course, the Bratbusters boot camp, it's 5 weeks if you've got a 3 to 12-year-old, but it's 5 weeks. That's 5 weeks. It's not going to happen in 5 days. It's going to take like 3 to 6 weeks usually around there. So I've put it out at 5 weeks. And I've paced that out after 17 years of coaching. I have paced that out exactly how it's most effective. Don't try and rush it. Do it in 5 weeks. You might do it in 6 or 7, but do not do it in 4 or 3. Don't rush it, but you can drag it out a little bit. Like if you go on holidays or something, or if you're sick for a week, you can just drag it out for another week. My 5-year-old is perfect except when at home with just me. How do I stop it? That's unusual. I don't know what's going on. My 5-year-old is perfect except when at home with just me. How do I stop it? That doesn't make any sense to me, because when it's just you and you're out, and he's perfect when it's just you and you're out. So it's not adding up with me. I don't know what you mean by that. You have to answer, you have to elaborate on that one, because it doesn't make sense to me. Six-year-old interrupting in class, not sitting correctly and talking. He gets A's, but well. The grades have nothing to do with behavior; they're separate. So he's misbehaving in class. Now, what's he like at home? Yeah, he's 6. He should know by now that he has to learn how to sit still. Yeah, what's he like at home? Usually, if they're acting out anywhere else, it's usually because of, like, do you just give in to him at home, and school doesn't? Are you the pleaser parent, always trying to give in to him, making life easy for him, not expecting anything of him? Is that what's going on? I don't know. That's usually the reason for that. Usually. Okay. Actually, I have to get going. It's been an hour now. So I'll get going now. And if you go in the link above, you can get my free behavior board, or you can buy one of my courses, or you can hire me for coaching. Goes up like that. So anyway, that's everything I've got to offer. My whole website's just sort of on there. I've got a separate website too, but the Podia is where I've got all my courses and everything. Everything's all linked up together now. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again. This is Monday. It's the Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada. So we've got today off. Well, people who don't work for themselves do. And then tomorrow is my regularly scheduled live. That's at 7 p.m. Vancouver time, which is Pacific time, same as California. So that's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great night. Bye now. It's not turning off for some reason. There we go.